Florida going to Knoxville, Tennessee. Play the Vols. Tennessee a 15.5-point favorite. Ooh, it's a large spread now. That's a large spread. 15.5. I'm just saying 7 Eastern, ESPN. The thing that I love about college football, there are many things. One of them is every single week you get to learn something new about your football team. Learn something new every week because every single week your team has a different situation. How will they handle a letdown spot? How will they handle success? For Tennessee, we're about to see how they handle failure. Because for the entirety of their bye week, they had just beaten Oklahoma. It was, man, Tennessee's a playoff team. We still think they are, full transparency. Man, Nico is a generational talent. I still think he is. But after you lose to Arkansas, losing kind of makes you question everything, right? Hey, who are we really? You get the imposter syndrome that you probably already were dealing with before because we all deal with it. How do they handle failure? Because now that safety net is gone. I mean, let's just talk about games outside of this Florida one. You got to play Bama and Georgia still. So if you want to drop this game by looking ahead to those, be my guest, but it would be something that would not serve you well and would obviously not serve your playoff aspirations well. Now, in terms of history, I never know what to make of these stats because I don't really think they matter that much, but college football has a certain way of making them matter. Of the last 19 times these teams have played, Florida has won 17 of them. Now, Josh Heupel wasn't around for that. Nico Iamaleava wasn't around for that. Billy Napier wasn't around for all that. But still, I mean, a trend's a trend, man. 2-17, your last 19, I don't know. It is what it is. Florida Gator fans, Tennessee Volunteer fans, y'all have both been great subscribing to the On3 YouTube channel. We are just flirting with 200K subs. Would love to have you a part of it if you have not already subscribed. If you have subscribed, go be a friend, tell a friend to subscribe, and make sure that they're all the way dialed in because we got college football season rolling right now. We're grateful to have you a part of it. For Florida, man, they're living out right now, as I was putting this segment together, they are living out the scene from Step Brothers where John C. Reilly thinks Will Ferrell is dead. And he goes out into the yard and starts digging a hole. And then Will Ferrell stands up and takes the shovel from John C. Reilly. And John C. Reilly says, I thought you were dead. I saw you die. Will Ferrell goes, I'm alive. I used my ninja focus to slow down my heart rate. And then he just whacks John C. Reilly in the head with a shovel. That might be Florida right now. After Texas A&M, a lot of folks took him out to the front yard, dug a hole. They thought they were dead. We thought they were dead. Florida's still kicking, man. Now, UCF isn't like the Transformers of the college football world, but still, I mean, Florida, very much so alive right now. So, again, that spread is what it is. 15.5 points. On this show, we say, how would it happen? For Florida to upset Tennessee, I think there's two paths here in terms of how they would get that done. The first is a little bit less likely, but let's at least unpack it. It would be Florida finding a way now to impose their will on the ground. Again, I don't think it's likely. Tennessee is allowing 1.9 yards a carry. But let's just say Billy Napier gets in his bag and this Florida team comes together and they put all of their willpower and their Florida-Tennessee magic into this spot and they just find a way to move the line of scrimmage. I don't think it's likely, but in a letdown spot, you just lost to Arkansas if you're Tennessee. We'll see how they rally the troops. I don't think it's the most irresponsible question to ask. Can Florida find a way to muster enough willpower, maybe have a little bit of money on the ground, find a little bit of juice on the ground. Now, the more likely situation, if you're asking me, is Florida finds a way to be dynamic offensively. In a perfect world, you'd have Trey Wilson available for this game. Now, we are shooting this on a Tuesday. We're live on a Tuesday, as we always are, so make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate you for that. But the injury report's going to come out throughout the week. We'll get our first one tonight and have a gauge for Trey Wilson. He was out against UCF. He is lightning in a bottle. He is the Swiss Army knife for that offense. And if you remember correctly now, last year in Gainesville, when Florida won this football game, Trey Wilson early on in that football game, even though he actually ended up leaving that football game pretty early, he was the game plan. It was Trey Wilson speed sweep left. It was Trey Wilson underneath in the crossing route right. Like they were feeding him the football. Whatever it was, they liked the matchup with Trey Wilson. He makes them dynamic. You got to be dynamic, I think, to be able to get this Tennessee offense, or a Tennessee defense rather, off balance. Maybe as importantly, to score with this Tennessee offense if you're Florida, all right? So, how does that happen? Again, maybe it's misdirection, maybe it's going into the bag of tricks that you maybe haven't shown just yet, but there's got to be something dynamic about Florida in this football game, because I think if you try and play them straight up, if you try and just do your whole complementary offense, run, pass, run your basic stuff, again, far be it for me to tell you I know exactly who the Florida offense is from a X's and O's perspective, but I don't think you beat Tennessee if you play them straight up. Just my opinion, and I think that's Vegas' opinion as well, with the spread being 15.5. Now, defensively, how do you handle Nico Iamaleava? How do you handle him? Because as much as people are saying, oh, what is he really, still super talented. My best bet, if I'm Florida defensively, would be to test his patience and say, Nico, we'll give you the underneath stuff. That's fine. You want to check it down. You want to have the easy access throw out there to Brew McCoy. You want to throw it out. Like, hey, we'll give you all that. Now, if you're going to do that, if you're Florida, you better freaking tackle, all right? Better eat your Wheaties and take your Flintstone gummies in the morning and be ready to roll, all right? Because we can't have this thing where we check it down to Brew McCoy and then he goes and runs roughshod, breaks a tackle or two, and he's off to the races. That's not good ball, okay? But if you say, hey, we'll give you that, we'll give you that, we'll give you that, that being like 5-7 yard completions, whatever. Obviously, you don't love giving up yardage. It is what it is. You'd much rather create negative plays. But if you do that, my question is, with all that's going on throughout the last couple of weeks and everyone talking about the Tennessee offense and them not being as dynamic and explosive, how much of that impacts this Tennessee operation? How much of that impacts Nico to where he says, all right, man, I'm going to take some swings here. I'm going to take some daddy hacks, if you will. And there's a time and place for daddy hacks. But however, when you are throwing into off coverage as a daddy hack, that typically is not a recipe for success. So the ultimate question here, does Nico Iamaleava start to press? If he does, turnovers happen, vibes are good for the Florida sideline, and then things start to get really interesting. And again, I keep going back to this number because you can't explain it, but 2-17, this game is weird. This game is very, very weird, and sometimes the better team or the better roster does not win. Is that Tennessee? Vegas thinks so, but will that happen? I don't know. Now, here's what I will say. I do think Tennessee has proven they can be a gritty, grimy, disgusting, gross operation offensively. Like, they can roll around in the mud and have it be that kind of game. Why? Because Dylan Sampson is a hooper, dude. He's a hooper. He went off in the second half against Arkansas. We all saw that. He is a walking 100-yard game on the ground. I think that with Florida's defense, I don't know they'll be able to contain him for the entirety of the game. Now, if you want to help Dylan Sampson out, which is funny to say this out loud, if you want to help Dylan Sampson out, create those explosive plays downfield. But even if you can't, I think the Tennessee offensive line will be able to line it up, knock them out. I mean, Florida's allowing 4 yards a carry right now. It honestly could be a game like this. The Office is my favorite television show on the face of the planet. Right up there. I mean, you talk about Breaking Bad, another video for another time when you talk about favorite TV shows. The Office, though, a lot of wisdom in that one. A lot of wisdom. And there's a quote there from Michael Scott when he is asked about firing an employee. He compares it to going hunting and shooting a deer. And he says, yeah, I shot a deer once. It took me about 4 hours. Did it with a shovel. Why do you ask? That might be Tennessee in this situation. It may not be the clean shot at the deer that you want to get. It may not be the 40-point outbreak from this offense where they look how they're supposed to look and you would like them to look if you're a Tennessee fan. If they do, phenomenal. That's great. It might be the situation where you got to take a shovel for 4 hours to Florida just to find a way to get the job done. So as morbid as that sounds, I think Tennessee does win the football game in shovel to deer kind of fashion. I think they end up winning 34-21, so I think they win. Hear me clearly. Tennessee, Florida. Weird logos, not weird logos. Weird things happen when these logos get together. Do not touch the spread.